Some years ago, a Japanese physician told me, "We are turning out the lights in Japan. We are shutting down labor and delivery rooms in hospitals. Doctors are no longer going into OBGYN and pediatric specialties. We are closing schools. Japanese are no longer having children." Sadly, this is not only true of Japan, the same thing is happening in Europe. The difference? Europe admits immigrants, and the immigrants are having families. Families of European extraction are not having children. But as Eric Metaxas explained in a Breakpoint commentary, Japan is not receiving immigrants.
The worker-to-retiree ratio measures how many people are in the workforce, stimulating the economy and paying taxes for every retired person. For the United States, a relatively young country with lots of immigrants, the ratio is about 4.5 to 1. Japan's is 2.6 to 1, and it's projected to be 1.2 to 1 by 2050. There are two ways you can increase the ratio: have more kids and/or admit more immigrants. Japan, which values homogeneity, won't do the latter and are not doing the former. The average Japanese woman gives birth to one child at around 30 and stops. Japan's fiscal demographic trap is not the result of some law of nature, it's the product of culture. For a host of reasons, the Japanese placed having and rearing children near the bottom of their to-do list. Japan is only leading the way in this regard. 19 countries, including Germany and South Korea, have lower fertility rates than Japan. Singapore's rate is 40% lower than Japan's.
Metaxas is right. About 20 countries have especially low birth rates. But these are not the only countries nearing the end of the death spiral. As the map depicts, 48% of the world's people live in countries that are beginning the death spiral of declining birth rates. It gets worse. The map's data for the United States needs to be updated to reflect a very troubling reality. In the spring of 2013, America crossed the critical threshold and fell below the 2.1 replacement level birth rate. Regarding this development, Jonathan Last, who wrote the book What to Expect When No One is Expecting, says this: "The latest numbers suggest that an amazingly high percentage of women today, 18.8%, complete their childbearing years having had no children. Another 18.5% of women finish having had only one child. Together, that's nearly 40% of Americans who go their entire lives having either one child or no children at all." Jonathan Last continues, "We're slowly bifurcating into a society where we have two classes of adults, parents and non-parents. We are experiencing profound political division in the United States. That political division is rooted in cultural division. The cultural divide, roughly speaking, is between the Judeo-Christian heartland and the atheist materialist mentality of the coasts. I would argue that this is the backdrop for the bifurcating of society Jonathan Last writes about. Those who consciously function from a Judeo-Christian framework or live from a Christian memory are continuing to form families and have children. Generally, those functioning from a materialistic framework are not. This is the case in the United States. What about the world at large? There, the divide is between those who are living in modern or postmodern cultures on the one hand, and those from traditional cultures on the other. Let's face it, in the modern and postmodern worlds, being a mother is no longer cool. If this trend continues, more and more nations will be turning out the lights.